Back and bigger than ever, it's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carey, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
And George! Welcome back. It is the unofficial 40 podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com, where we have the entire crew. We're changing it up a little this week because Hoops is getting ready to start, so we're going to bring on Bob a little bit later. We're going to start with the next most famous person around here to Eddie is George Stoya. He joins us. Josh McQuistion. We're just the old folks. We're in the old folks' home, Josh. We're not a part of the cool kids crew.
I'm just waiting for the glue factory. It's coming.
I keep telling the nurses to up the dosages to keep you guys calm, but I don't think they're.
Oh, you
listening.
mean that IV wasn't just fluids to?
No, they said that was a what's it called? Placebo type effect.
Okay. No wonder I'm still hungover. By the way, I do have a bone to pick early in the show. Welcome, Josh. By the way, George Stoya. I believe he has a future in running a Ponzi scheme. He got me to buy.
Oh, no.
He got me to buy a Whoop bracelet.
Yes.
And I was very excited. I even got like the fast shipping on it. By the way, did you get? Is it getting any better? By the way,
I took it off.
You son of a bitch!
George is already out. I already said that he was sending it back.
I've already filed for the. They give you a shipping label to ship it back.
You son of a bitch! So
I did not like it.
I thought I was going to have a brother in Whoop in the office with me. I thought it was something that we could do together.
I have one. Do you want me to put it on?
You have a Whoop?
Yeah, I got like the first installment of it.
Oh, this is.
I was way ahead of the curve.
4.0.
Yeah, it sucks. There's too many metrics going on. It doesn't count my steps.
You didn't even give it a chance.
I woke up this morning. I gave it one more chance. I woke up this morning.
The 4 days for
there was
to
no
get all
data.
Your metrics.
There was no data this morning when I woke up to my sleep, and I thought that was the whole point of getting it.
I feel like I've been left at the altar, the Whoop altar.
Oh, well.
The no steps is a deal
Whoop.
breaker for me. I pretty much value my life by the steps I've taken in a day. That's how successful I was that day.
I don't know what I was thinking anyways. I just had like a splurge purchase.
You just want someone to tell you had a lot of steps.
Yes.
That's all
exactly.
you really want.
And my Garmin already does that. So I don't know why I thought the Whoop would help me. I saw Brent wears one. All these like really fit people wear a Whoop. So I was like, well, maybe
I shouldn't be wearing one then, I guess.
How's the sleep recovery?
Are
you in the red today?
No,
or what's the colors? Isn't it green?
Have a
You're
sleep
good.
deficit.
They give you a number too, but
it's like pink and
mine never gave me like it was not picking up any of my data.
Well, did you download the app?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and it kept giving me notifications like an hour after I did activity. Like, did you do activity? And it's like, yeah, no shit. Like I thought that was the point of the Whoop is that it was supposed to just pick up on it, and just do it without me having. That's the whole gist of it. I don't know. Maybe I got a malfunctioning one.
I needed no electronics to tell me that Carey's sleep patterns are entirely fucked. Like there's no question.
I was just wondering if it was going to be a situation where it's like, okay, it like shuts off. You got to go get this reset at a hospital. Like it makes you go and get enough sleep. Or at least a certain number.
Is like when you wreck your car and it calls someone for you? Is the Whoop going to call my family doctor? I got today's activities. I got 5 hours and 2 minutes of sleep last night.
That's not good.
5's good.
Yeah, 5's good.
5 to 6 is all I need.
Radio, obviously.
Yeah, 5 to 6. If I can get 6, that's like sleeping in.
What did it say though for your performance? Like what was the?
I was awake for 45 minutes while I was sleeping. I don't remember that. An hour and 43 minutes was light sleeping. An hour and 10 minutes was deep sleeping, and 2 hours and 9 minutes was REM sleep.
See, I think the Whoop is good for you. I think the Whoop will be good. It'll help you with your sleep.
But you're not doing it with me, and
I sleep fine. I sleep fine. I don't need.
You have a father, so I don't want to have a father-son relationship with you. But it would have been nice to do something together.
We work together, Carey.
My efficiency, well, I don't have a problem with your work, so we have a good relationship.
Did you want this to go poorly and we have a bad relationship?
Yeah, that sounds like you wanted this to be adversarial.
No, I mean, as long as you continue to do good work, we're fine.
All right. Good.
And I never tell him he does good work either, so
that's fine.
Does that bother you that I don't?
No, my dad tells me enough that I do good work.
Okay. I'm just not a
George has that dad. That's awesome. Good for you, George.
I'm not very good at just telling people they're doing a great job. I try and do that every once in a while.
Every Tuesday, I get a text from my dad. Great questions at the press conference, even if it was a shit question. That I asked.
You gotta love that. Look, my parents listen to the morning radio show that I do every day, and they commented on all the time. Like that's the coolest thing you can do as a parent. I think. I know it bothers you because you're young.
No, I
but
appreciate it.
But as you get older, you will learn to appreciate that stuff.
I appreciate it. Thanks,
and
Dad.
can we have George call in sick? Like, just not go to the press conference one time and just check his dad. We'll make sure his dad doesn't have those set up like first thing Tuesday morning.
He definitely doesn't listen to the press conference. Probably he just knows when it ends and just texts me.
He's just mailing in his fatherly duties.
Yeah.
All right. We probably needed this little distraction to start the show because we've talked enough about Jeff Lebby, I think. And I think people are ready to kind of turn the page a little bit.
I mean, it's pretty simple. I would be almost more shocked this Saturday if they weren't even to an extent of overly aggressive. Like to where it's like, slow down a little bit. You don't need to go all the way.
Well, I mean, I think the main thing is if Dylan Gabriel throws an interception early, don't shut down. I think that's got to be the one lesson that everyone needed to learn from Kansas.
I think, too, did you guys get the sense, Eddie, you were there, Bob was there, it felt like Dylan, and I said this after the game on Saturday, he was upset with the game plan. It felt like, again, yesterday, he was like, yeah, I'm just trying to do my job. And, I mean, he didn't really, it seemed like he was still upset about.
I think so. I think he was also, to a certain extent, of like, we've moved on. I don't want to have to answer all these questions again. But he knew they were coming and knew he had to kind of sit through it and take it.
Yeah.
And, I think that it's going to be quite interesting to see what they throw out there on Saturday. And, I think the questions now are just more in terms of like the injury situation for Oklahoma and Tawi Walker, Danny Stutsman. Sounds like Gentry Williams is pretty good to go. He's practiced the last 2 days. So,
well, I think the biggest thing that happened yesterday was just the college football playoff rankings coming out, and I think for people to see, like, look, nobody feels like OU's playing all that well right now, and I think a lot of people are worried about Bedlam, obviously, especially after a loss to Kansas, and then not playing well against UCF. But if you get your shit together, man, you're still in a decent place. I mean, you've got to hope for a Florida State or a Washington to trip up or something like that, but
your Knowles,
your season isn't over. I still don't understand why that became such a big deal.
I'm just giving you shit
on the postgame pod.
Giving you shit.
It was just a comparison, and people acted like I said that OU sucks because Florida State's doing well. Like, do people? I know people don't listen, but I mean that thing got so blown out of proportion.
There was a lot of anger. There's a lot of venom on Saturday night on the board.
You got a question on the board chat about it?
Yeah.
I got a question on my mailbag.
My assessment of OU and Florida State.
It's not. I was never like, oh, OU is shit because Florida State has taken off this year. That was not the comparison. The comparison was just that if you compare the two, Florida State's taken off, OU hasn't.
Sure. They've been really bad the last 2 weeks, OU.
And look, as I said, if you put Keon Coleman and Trey, what's the running back, Trey Benson on OU's team, they're not losing a game this year.
They would help. They would help a lot. It is, just in terms of Oklahoma offensively and everything, the shit show that was on Saturday, it is crazy to even realize how bad we think that they have played over the last 2 weeks specifically. And then you look at the national numbers, and they're still a really good offense. I think that's kind of been lost in the confusion of what everything was on Saturday. And then the other thing that kind of got, I think, thrown under the bus a little bit, or was maybe a little bit of a distraction because of how bad they played offensively. A week after we're singing the praises of OU's interior defensive line, they got dominated on Saturday against Kansas. And I'm interested to see how that group bounces back against, the rushing attack that is Ollie Gordon and everything that comes with that.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that because we're looking around right now at everything going on in college football with OU. And this is the Enjoy Vision Fresh Perspective Look Around. And you know what? If we could have seen that coming last week, Eddie probably would have taken more hand warmers with him.
Maybe Jeff Lebby couldn't see his play sheet. Maybe that's what it is, and he just went off some
we need to send him to Enjoy.
Maybe that's some of the stuff that he just missed. I don't know. He would have been able to see the play sheet, though. if he went to Enjoy Vision, which is the best laser vision center in Oklahoma City, and it's not even close. The combination of mind-blowing technology, experienced eyeball surgeons, and exceptional patient care was life-changing for me. What they're doing for the unofficial 40 listener is they're giving $400 off LASIK. If you're interested, all you got to do is go to enjoywithme.com. That is the letter NJOY withme.com, and use promo code U40 for $400 off LASIK. Enjoy Vision. This is where you LASIK.
Thank you very much for that, Eddie Radosevich, the third. He's a third too, by the way.
Come on, Andy.
Andy
I'm the third as well. It probably wasn't Andy. I'm guessing that he's not doing it. That's okay.
We're gonna say
we're both
Andy.
the thirds.
Yes, dude, George Stoya is a third. I didn't even realize. I mean, I knew Eddie was a third, but you reminded me that your dad is the second, not a junior.
Does your dad have the same middle name too?
Yeah.
Same.
No, I think he's technically junior.
Is he a junior?
Yeah.
But since he's Eddie Lawrence Radosevich,
Edward
Lawrence
I'm the
Radosevich.
third.
Did you ever want to be called Eddie Jr.?
I don't think so.
Not in a NASCAR.
Never come across.
Okay. So anyway, yeah, but I mean, look, this season for Oklahoma State was a disaster in the beginning. Like, I thought that they might win 3 games.
After the South Alabama game, people were literally wondering if they were going to win another game this season.
Well, and then, they go to Iowa State, they lose, but they looked pretty good. And, they finally made that decision to go with Alan Bowman, which, really turned things around. And, well, giving Ollie Gordon the ball more is what really turned things around. But having that one quarterback and having a running back, that offensive line that looks so it's been so shaky the last few years, now looks at least competent. But like you said, Josh, are they Kansas's offensive line? I mean, should OU have a really big advantage defensively here on the front at least?
They should. They should. I mean, and what Oklahoma, I know Oklahoma fans say, "Oh crap, here we go again." Oklahoma State's not trying to confuse you. They're not like Kansas. We saw it those first few drives. They had all that motion. They're moving you around. They're trying to get your eyes moving in different directions. And Oklahoma State's like, we're just going to hit you in the mouth. Like they're playing man ball, and you think about that, and it says that should line up well for Oklahoma, because this is not. I don't even think this Oklahoma State offensive line is probably as good as the Kansas offensive line. Like I don't think a lot of this group, as far as like a personnel, but clearly they've got a rhythm. I mean, we talk about it all the time, and that was one of the big problems last week for Oklahoma. All the rotations and the players. I think they ended up playing 9 offensive linemen last week. Like, just it's hard to have cohesion. I think Oklahoma State knows what they are. They know what they want to be, and like we talked about with Oklahoma, kind of having a lack is Oklahoma State has an identity. They know who they are offensively.
And it's one of those things, like, if your team is going to play another team and you think it's a sort of evenly matched game, like, you hate when your team comes in, the opponent that's coming in is coming off of a loss. Because, let's face it, OU hasn't had a chip on their shoulder since before the Texas game. I mean, they've been playing kind of fat and happy the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I think they're a little pissed off. I mean, I don't know. It felt like from the players this week, it seems like everyone's asking them, it's the last Bedlam. You guys coming off a loss. They view this as just another game of we have to get right. And I think that's the way to approach it, because if Oklahoma plays Oklahoma football on Saturday, they should win the game, and I think they should win it pretty easily. Like, if they play good football, they're going to win. I don't think it's so much what is Oklahoma State going to do to combat that. It's Oklahoma knows that they just need to get back to what they're good at.
I just wonder if this team, like, they don't seem to really enjoy prosperity. Like, it's like they don't slam the door shut on him. I mean, even like the Cincinnati game, you could say it was a blowout. They scored 20 points. Look at all the other teams and what they've scored on Cincinnati. Everybody's scoring 30 plus.
Striking.
Yeah. I mean, so it's like, I wonder if they understand it's okay to go out and just stomp the shit out of somebody.
I think there's one person that does, and he talks every Tuesday with the media, and that's Brent Venables.
Yeah.
It seems like he sees it, but
his quote this week, I think, was pretty telling when he said that we have to keep the aggressive mentality on offense. Mm-hmm. That, to me, knows he's aware that the offense has failed at times to put
and it's
games
only
away.
been good when they're down.
Yes.
Like, that's what's remarkable.
It's like they like to get in a hole, and they're like, oh, shit, we have to go score.
It's crazy. We were watching, what game was it? We were watching an OU game a couple days ago in the office, and it's
Kansas.
The Kansas game.
Yeah, we watched the Kansas game.
And you get down, and then all of a sudden the offense, it opens up a little bit.
Well, it's like they get back to they're like, oh, we should just run the ball and then throw it over the middle to Nick Anderson and Drake Stoops. And it's like, where was that at the beginning of the game? And sometimes, like, I think you go back and you watch, and Dylan missed some at the beginning of the game. Like, he just missed some guys open, especially on those first 2 drives. But it just seems like the play calling gets wacky at times. Like, I still go back to the second half, the first 3 possessions of that third quarter. They were just weird play calls. The jet sweep to Gavin Freeman on 3rd and 3. It's like, Tawi's running great. You do that. The next one is the Farouk fumble. It's like you don't even have a running back out there. Like, it's just it's bewildering where they just like go off script when things are working.
And my question is, I think that has to be a Jeff Lebby thing. I mean, I think he has to internalize that and fix it himself, because I don't think Brent Venables, any head coach, I don't think it's that commonplace for them to go to the offensive coordinator and say, change things.
No, but I do think there's probably some of Brent that's like, hey, like, what are we doing? What's the plan here?
But I'm saying like when he goes kind of into a shell, like the stuff you're talking about, or bringing Jackson Arnold out on the field, or like just like you said, I mean, the stuff with Jalil Farouk when it's not working, like he just tends to, like we've talked about a lot, he gets too cute at times, and I think he's the only one that can fix that. Like, Brent can tell him to be aggressive, but he's not really going to go to him, I don't think, and say, look, cut out all the shit. Like,
I wish he did.
Just run the football.
I wish he did.
Just throw the football
like,
down the
just
field.
use your butter. Like, you're playing offense instead of throwing all this other shit out there.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it doesn't have a place. It just seems like it doesn't have a place for what they're trying to do.
Well, it doesn't have a place for a team, and I've said this many times, Josh, a team that usually has better talent than the team they're playing. You don't need window dressing.
I mean, they played one game this year where a team had anywhere near their talent. I mean, like, it's just, that is what it is. Guys, the thing I can't figure, and I don't know where I even stand on this, maybe you guys do know where, I don't know how much is fair. Like, because like George was saying, I will see calls that get criticized by fans, and I look at it and you're like, there was a receiver open there. Like, Jeff Lebby can't make Dylan Gabriel make that throw. He can't make him see that. But at the same time, you've got a jet sweep on 3rd and 3 when you're pounding Kansas up the middle. Like, there's a fine line where I'm like, yeah, I get some of it, but at the same time, like he's got to go stuff. I'm like, I don't know that I'm there on that, but like,
but what sticks
there
out,
are things that just baffle me.
What sticks out, Josh, is when you get a turnover and then you have 2 straight negative plays, and then the third play you run the quarterback. I mean, like, what the hell?
Well, and I would also say, to Josh's point, the position coaches deserve a lot of blame as well. Like, I don't know what they're doing on the offensive line with all the rotating and things like that. Like, Caden Green should start at left guard the rest of the year. The fact that Savion Byrd started that game was ridiculous. Then we've talked about DeMarco Murray and the running back situation. That's been mismanaged, in my opinion. And then even the wide receivers, I don't think it's to the length of offensive line and running back. But when you look out there, and maybe this is a Lebby call, but that last drive, it's Jaden Gibson and Gavin Freeman out there as your receivers instead of Farouk, Anderson, and Stoops. It's like, be more obvious that you're not going to be throwing the ball down the field, because those guys haven't done anything all game. Like, I don't know. The personnel decisions have been just as head-scratching as the play calls, in my opinion.
And that's stuff that's worked out during the week. That's part of the game plan. I mean, so they work that. So, like, I don't know. Do they have to self-scout their own game plans during the week?
Maybe a little bit. I mean, I
have Matt Wells.
Could it hurt? And I think that they do that already.
You would think so, with all the analysts they have.
I'd be shocked if they didn't. With all the analytics that they throw out there during the week of the press conference and throughout the times that we talk to them, they have to have those numbers available.
I do think that at least I heard some rumors and stuff that there was a little bit of a come to Jesus on that plane ride back with the offensive coach and staff.
Jalen Hurts on the tarmac.
I mean, something need to be said. I don't think that it was so bad that I don't think that you couldn't not address it.
Yeah.
I mean, look, here, what it comes down to is every offensive coordinator is going to be criticized. Like, every one of them has their own DNA. I mean, Lincoln Riley he didn't run the ball enough. I mean, remember the game against Iowa State where Kennedy Brooks ran it like 7 straight times at the end of the game to kind of salt it away because he wasn't running it the whole rest of the game. Like, there's always little quirks with offensive coordinators. Yeah. It doesn't mean that they suck as play callers. It just means that they have their own little DNA and they tend to lean on something more than other things.
I mean, this was maybe the most egregious, though, just because it feels like, and this is definitely looking at it from just one angle, but if they would have just been more aggressive, been a little bit more open, they probably win the football game. And I'm not talking about just on that final drive trying to put it away. I'm talking about the entire game.
Yeah.
To run the ball 19 times in a row, it was raining and it was miserable. But Jason Bean didn't have a problem throwing the ball 32 times.
No.
For Dylan Gabriel to go into the fourth quarter and did the final possession there with only 12 throws all day is just, it's criminal.
See, and there's a part of me that doesn't mind the 19 runs at all. Like, if they're giving that to you and you can do it, why complicate your life? Like, sure. I'm okay with that to a point. But then once Kansas makes their changes that they had to make because they couldn't live like that, Oklahoma's got to be able to adapt. And they're like, no, we're just going to keep doing this. No, it's not working. Okay, now they've made this change. They've got safeties coming into the box. You've got Nick Anderson one-on-one outside all day. That's a battle you have to try and win. I mean, you have to give him opportunities.
It's crazy to me that Lebby sits up in the box and sees that the safeties are literally just asking you, daring you to throw over the top. And they never even tried.
You know what's crazy is like in when Lebby was at Baylor, and I know he wasn't the offensive coordinator, but that was a Baylor team, Josh, that like they would just come in and say, hey, let's test out these corners. Like, we don't know if there's going to be a completion or not, but let's take some plays and test out these corners and see how they are under fire. See if our guys can make them look stupid. If we can get a penalty, if we can get in their head, and then we just keep it like that's what I don't understand. Lebby comes from that system, so why did that disappear?
I wish I had a good answer because there was so much of this, and I know there's been a lot of discussion about this. What is the identity of this offense? Like I kind of referenced it earlier. Like, are they a run team? Are they a pass team? Does RPO make that impossible to ever really decipher because you're just playing a numbers game all the time? It's you're cheating at poker. I mean, it's basically how you're playing that. So I don't know, but I mean, it feels like again to me my biggest problem. And I know everybody can talk about the final drive and the play calling and that kind of stuff, but you needed 10 yards. And at no point did you trust your quote-unquote Heisman contender quarterback to make one throw. One throw. I don't know if that reflects on Lebby. I don't know if that reflects on Lebby's opinion of Gabriel. I don't know if Brent Venables said, hey, we're running here 3 times. Because we know, guys, game management, that's not Jeff Lebby's call. Like that's Brent saying, this is what we want to do. He has to have input there.
That's something that has been talked about on the board a little bit. And, Andy kind of brought it up last night in the interview that we did on his show, George, was, how much of the responsibility lays at the feet of Brent Venables for how that fourth quarter played out, just in terms of the end of the game and them running in the ball and not even attempting to put the ball in the air. And then the other side of it, too, is Brent Venables and the defense getting off a little bit free too, because the offense was so bad. But at the same time, at the end of the day, you let Jason Bean go 80 yards on you. And I know 37 of that was a big chunk of that was on one play on a 4th down. But it seems like for a defense that has taken steps that is nowhere close to where they want it to be, you need to get off the field against Kansas.
They look tired. I mean, I don't want to come up with excuses, but they looked exhausted.
What's interesting,
when they had to go back out there.
Kanai Walker had a really good play earlier in that game, but if Gentry Williams is healthy, does OU win that game?
Yeah, I think so.
I think he makes that play.
To come down to just one guy like that.
But I couldn't agree more with George. Like, and I know, I mean, the timeout on fourth down, like that's a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing. Because if he calls timeout, Kansas draws up something, even if it's that same damn play, people are going to say, well, you gave Kotelnicki time to come up with that. He made that play. He drew it on the whiteboard. Like, no, that's not how that works. And then at the same time, if you don't call timeout, then we didn't give our defense time to get set up. Like, you can't win that argument. But when you watch that defensive line, they had no juice. There was nothing. They had been on the field that whole drive. They looked tired, and that's to me why you call that timeout.
I think this week too, we're going to see them really bring some more pressure. It felt like they were somewhat scared of bringing pressure on Bean because they knew he could take off.
Open up a lane, yeah.
This week, it feels like, one, I don't think those tackles are as good for OSU, so you could probably win some one-on-ones out there. But if you can get in the face of Alan Bowman, he's either going to make a mistake or you're getting a sack. Like, he's not Jason Bean in terms of mobility. I mean, did you guys see the stat of Jason Bean? I have no idea how accurate it is, but he ran like 22 miles per hour on the 40-yard touchdown run right after the Farouk fumble. It was like the fastest of the year in college football or something.
Damn, really?
Yeah, watch Kendall Dolby on that play. Kendall Dolby, who we know can run, takes an angle and just gets murdered. Like, it's not even close at the end zone. Like, he sees it, he takes an angle to the pylon, and Bean just outruns him. Like, I mean, Bean was flying on that play.
Yeah, I remember just watching it on television, thinking to myself, like, damn, that kid's fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they had a cameraman, and they had a sideline cameraman, and he ran right past him, and it was just visibly different.
Damn, I did not realize he was going that fast.
But Bowman's Landry Jones. Bowman's not going anywhere. He wants to sit back there and throw. He's going to throw it away before he's going to run in all likelihood.
It's going to be interesting. I mean,
and the Ollie Gordon thing is just, it's incredible what he's been able to do against an offensive line that I think a lot of people thought, 4 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago was just absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
Now, the offensive line, I still think Oklahoma has a significant advantage with their defensive line, but the tackles that Ollie Gordon's broke over the last 4 weeks is just, I mean, he looks like Adrian Peterson out there.
They haven't faced a running back like him.
I don't want people to get uptight about that.
You're just saying he's big, powerful.
I think he's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, he's a guy that's going to play in the NFL.
Eddie just compared him to Adrian Peterson.
I said he's better. He's better. Yes.
No, he's a guy that OU hasn't seen a guy like him this year. I mean, there aren't a lot of those backs around anymore. I mean, Jonathan Brooks is a really good running back, and he did some damage against Oklahoma.
And that's why, like, talking to Isaiah Coe on Monday night, I would have a feeling either I'm sure it happened Monday before practice, but in that first team meeting this week, I think that there was a little discussion about tackling.
It's been an issue. I mean, it wasn't an issue early. I mean, George, you were talking about, the PFF numbers and how impressive they were.
They only, again, PFF, they have some good stats on there, and it's really good for snap counts especially, but they only had OU for 9 missed tackles on Saturday. There was way more. So I don't know.
There was that much in the first half.
Yeah. So I don't know what the actual number was. But, I mean, just with your eye, though, it was the worst tackling performance of the year.
No question. Guys, with that in mind, and knowing that Jaron Kanak, I thought Jaron Kanak had his worst game as a starter. He might be the biggest
defender of his tackles.
He really struggled. Do you feel comfortable, like, if there's a game that I would say this is kind of tailor-made for his backup, Kobe McKenzie, big physical guy. Ollie Gordon's not going to run over Kobe McKenzie.
We've talked about that
I'm not
lot,
saying I'm not saying that Kobe's his physical equal. Like, there's going to be parts of it that Ollie's going to get the better of it. There's no question. He's a great player. But, like, those two meet in the hole, that's a fight Kobe can live in that world. Kanak, it's not that he can't. It's just we've seen him miss a lot of tackles, and so far Kobe has seemed very sure in that way.
You remember the play last year against Baylor when Stutsman literally just took the wrong gap and the running back took the gap next to it? Like, That's what you worry about, like with Kobe McKenzie playing, because we all thought Stutsman he had a ton of he led the league in tackles last year, but he had those moments where you're just like, oh, that looks ugly. Like, is he ever going to figure that out? And he has this year. But that's what you worry about with a Kanik, and you worry about with a Kobe McKenzie in this game is, do you take the wrong gap? Do you not, like, I guess what they've been saying, like, are you getting fooled? Are your eyes getting fooled? Like, that's the biggest threat, I would think, to Oklahoma in this game for Oklahoma State. And if you play Kobe McKenzie, it probably just amplifies how much you might make mistakes in a gap scheme like that.
And that's 100% fair, because so much of what we're going off with Kobe is like 10 or 15 plays. Like we don't know much. With Jaron, like, there's plenty of good stuff too. People don't ever want to, like, once it goes bad, it's just like it's like they can't ever get out of that cycle. It's kind of the same deal with Stutsman. He almost needed a whole offseason to kind of rewrite the story and reset. And then, he's incredible. Guys, he was doing some of that stuff last year. I think he got exhausted as the year went on and just wasn't the same guy down the stretch. But with Kobe, and then and the flip side of this conversation is, if Danny can't go and it's Kip Lewis, that's a 205, 210-pound linebacker taking on one of the most physical backs in the country. Like, I love Kip Lewis. We know this. But that's a unique challenge.
Yeah.
No doubt. I think it's probably been lost on a lot of people this week that Reggie Pearson's going to be out for the first half because of the ejection last week on the targeting call. And I think that the automatic answer is get Peyton Bowen's ass on the field. He's also working through a little bit of an injury here over the last couple weeks. So,
you know what? I mean, in terms of the run game, if you watch games early in the year versus the last couple, you know what you really notice a difference in? One, it's tackles for loss. And two, it's just that defensive line. Because we talk about the linebackers. Those guys were making life so easy for the linebackers early on in the season, because even the Texas game, go back and watch that game. Like, they were getting to Brooks before, he was even getting to the line of scrimmage. They were just mashing it up in the middle. They were knocking back the line of scrimmage, and they haven't been doing that the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, I agree. Sorry, the last few minutes I've been looking up just some statistics on defenses that OSU's faced while Ollie Gordon's gone off on this, and I thought it was interesting that, and I don't want to take anything away from Ollie Gordon, but the last 3 weeks they've played, who was it? Kansas, West Virginia, and Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Cincinnati actually ranks 44th in rush defense, but West Virginia's 72nd and Kansas is 101st. So again, it's not like they've been going up against just world beaters up front, and definitely they haven't gone up against a defensive line like Oklahoma. So that's why, like your point is, Carey, the defensive line, I think, is the biggest. Like, we talk about Danny Stutsman being out. They need Dejon Terry, Isaiah Coe, Jordan Kelly. Jordan Kelly, I feel like, has Lualu. We haven't seen Lualu do anything in a couple weeks either. Like, those guys have to play one of their best games, because if they can, take up 2 blocks or get in the backfield, Ethan Downs on the edge, like, those guys have to play really well. That frees up, a Kanik or whoever to go make a play.
It would also seem like this is the type of game that R. Mason Thomas, if you are going to get after Alan Bowman with his speed around the edge, that this is a game that he could really excel in.
And maybe PJ as well.
Sure.
I mean,
sure.
If his talent, their talent is less than others at the tackle positions, then you would think that this could be a game where his talent could kind of shine a little bit.
I agree. I don't know. I think that there's a lot of people, and you look at the analytically, you look at the matchup. The computers love Oklahoma this week. The bettors love Oklahoma. I mean, that number, and I usually don't spend a whole lot of time looking at it, but for it to jump as quickly as it did, I think there's a lot of money by people that know what they're doing that jumped all over OU at -4, and it's held steady at -6. So it'll be interesting. And the last times that this has happened, people jumped all over Central Florida against OU.
Yep.
Central Florida covered. OU Texas, people jumped all over OU. that week and got that number down, if I remember correctly, and it ended up working out.
Guys, with Oklahoma, like, as you look at it, if they make that stop on 4th and 6, whether it's Kenai Walker or Gentry Williams is magically healthy, for whatever reason, they make that, how different is the narrative this week? I feel like people are having the same conversation I've been having for a few weeks, that I think Oklahoma is 2 touchdowns better than Oklahoma State. Yeah. Like, I don't think that's even that close. But now people are like, well, because they lost to a pretty good Kansas team, and they played terribly. Like, I feel like it's just, and again, I'm not saying Oklahoma can't lose. We don't know what this team's going to do week in and week out because they've been so inconsistent. But I feel like if the defensive line plays as it did against Texas, I don't really see a way Oklahoma State wins this game. Like, that is as simple as I can make it.
I also did just think OU should score. Like, if OU doesn't score more than like 35 points on Saturday, I'll be pretty surprised. Like, I just don't think this OSU defense is anything special. Like, they rank like, I think 83rd in rushing defense, 70-something in passing defense. Like, OU should be able to attack down the field and be able to run the football. Actually, they rank 101st in rushing defense. So, I mean, they should be able to run the ball again this week, I believe.
Look, it's in-state, and Josh, you're the best person to talk to because you're out of the madness of in-state. But right now, what you've got in-state is a bunch of Oklahoma State fans that are really fired up for this, and for good reason. That they thought their season was dead, and they're very excited about Ollie Gordon. They should be, but it's just the whole,
top of, like, if you can get through this, if you're an OSU fan with the schedule that they have left, you might play in Arlington.
Yeah,
I mean, you're going to have the inside track to Arlington, and then possibility of ended up in a New Year's Six Bowl for where this thing was. But out of the South Alabama game, it's incredible.
But I mean, and I think a big part of it is last Bedlam game. If you win this game, you have bragging rights forever. I mean, I was joking the other day about if Oklahoma State wins this game, they can just say whatever they want for eternity, basically, until they play again, unless they play in a bowl game, which Texas A&M never did. So, I mean, they're very lathered up for this one,
as they should be. I think it's going to be an incredibly chaotic and violent atmosphere. It's going to be fun.
I don't discount the possibility of a post-game fight in this one.
I just don't think that and Mike Gundy is right when he's talking about, like, the rivalry probably between the teams isn't quite what it used to be. I don't necessarily think they dislike each other, but I don't think that, like, they hate each other.
If someone does something to trace forward early, then I think it could become basically like greasers and socias.
The Kansas game was really interesting to me. It was the most chippy OU
really
game
was.
I can remember in a while, and I don't know why.
UCF was very chippy.
Yeah.
I just think there's probably a lot of hate for Oklahoma, I would assume, and that it's going to be on another level this week. The part about the fight, the part that you get worried about a fight happening, I think, is when if OSU wins and they storm the field, and you get some crazy student
face.
Doing what they did to
especially
LV Bunkley Shelton.
That would be a breaking point for OU with your season basically over.
Yeah.
I could see somebody just getting walloped.
Yeah.
Was that Nebraska in Missouri and Nebraska where they went up to the Nebraska kicker and he just decked him back in the day?
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that?
I don't know, but I will say shout out to LV Bunkley Shelton. He had a lot more poise than I would have in that moment with that video of the kid yelling at him.
Full disclosure, I was standing there in the end zone when LV was walking into the locker room there, and he was like smiling and stuff. And like my immediate thought was, in the aftermath of the way that game ended, I was like, man, what a dickhead! Why is he smiling about this? And then I saw the video of him getting messed with the Kansas student, and I was like, oh, okay,
yeah.
I think that had just happened.
Same with Caleb Williams at the Notre Dame game.
Yeah,
I would have just popped that kid.
Yeah, 100%.
And that should be fully permitted. You're going to get down there. You want to get down there with the guys right in the heat of the moment, man. Fuck around and find out. Like that just seems.
Moment. Yeah.
I've got no problem with that. Like, you want to get down there on the field. I love that stuff. That's college football. Like, get down there. That's cool. But trying to go start something with one of the players who A, would beat you mercilessly, and B, you're going to start crying to an attorney or something the second they do. Man, like, there's no need for that. Like, that doesn't need to happen. And this is, I get into this with people on the board all the time, like with the whole Matt Campbell thing earlier in the year. Like, you start running your mouth to people that are in the heat of the moment. I don't know why you act surprised if somebody pops back at you. Like, that just seems, I don't know. Seems like you got what's coming to you.
I just looked up this. It was Kellen Houston of Nebraska. Punched a Missouri fan, just knocked him out cold.
I believe that was a haymaker. Just knocked his ass out.
I forgot about the LeGarrette Blunt sucker punch.
I remember
Oregon
that.
Played Boise.
I remember that. That was
ruined
actually,
his career basically until he, ended up in the NFL.
I'm pretty sure I was in Dallas for that. It was like during Christmas break.
It was like one of the first bowl games, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or something?
Well, I was gonna say,
or was it an early season?
No,
game?
it was early season.
Yeah,
was it an early season?
I'm almost certain it was.
Yeah,
you know what?
I think it was
that
one of those big, maybe not even opening weekend, but one of those big early.
It was the
non-conference
night
matches.
before the OU BYU game.
Wow.
Yeah, I could believe that.
think
September
that's what it
4th,
was.
2009. I just looked it up. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I'm watching it. Man, it's weird seeing old standard definition television highlights. Scott Frost was on that staff. I forgot about that.
It's crazy.
So do you guys think OU's going to
Was
win?
Connor Stolis at the game? Can you see him in the background? What were you saying?
Only Eddie could mess up the last name Stallions.
Oh, it's Stallions.
Dude, you said
think
that.
I
You
said
said
Stolis.
I was
said
like,
Stolins.
man, I've been saying it wrong this
You
entire
said that to me
time.
yesterday, and I was like, who are you talking about?
I don't know why I keep doing that. I think I know somebody named Stolis.
I think your
You didn't
brain
even say
purposely-
Stolins that
No
time.
one knows why you do anything with
I
regards to
think your
names.
brain purposely messes up last names. Like, just does it deliberately.
Can you be
I
like
need to write that
name
down.
dyslexic?
I need to write. I could be.
All right,
There's
you know
an
what
open chance.
You know what you could use? You could use some nice protein. I bet that would help out your brain. Go to primeshrimp.com, and if you use the promo code U40, you're going to get 25% off your entire order, $50 or more. It's shrimp made easy. You can, they're frozen. They come to you in dry ice. Take them, put them in your freezer. Make some boiling water. Within 10 minutes, you've got a restaurant quality meal right there at home. Choose from the garlic herb butter shrimp, New Orleans style barbecue shrimp, the signature Cajun seasoned shrimp, French quarter Alfredo. I mean, I can just go on all day. Lemon and cracked pepper shrimp, Louisiana boil Cajun shrimp, or you can just get the unseasoned shrimp and do it yourself. So, primeshrimp.com, great company, great shrimp. Is it keto or keto friendly? I don't even know.
Keto.
They've got the whole 30 friendly options and the gluten-free options. Go check them out. Primeshrimp.com, Prime shrimp.com. Not affiliated with Deion Sanders as far as we know. All right. Anyway, so I don't know where you guys want to go. I mean, let me ask you college football rankings real quick. I mean, George, you called in on the teleconference. You asked the question.
I did.
I mean, look,
no avail.
I think first off, I think OU's right, probably where they should be. But I will say, there's a lot of I don't know. Alabama seems to be still treated as a national, title contender when I just don't think that they are.
We'll see this weekend. There's a lot of people picking LSU already this
yeah.
week.
Yeah.
Just not wondering if basically Alabama keep up offensively with
Is that
Jaden Daniels.
where is that game?
Tuscaloosa,
Okay.
6:30 Saturday night. CBS. Good vibes.
I think there's really.
that-
Go ahead, Josh.
I was just going to say that Alabama defense versus that LSU offense is going to be just some of the best football you'll see all year. Like, that is two really good units. Now, when the flip is on the field, that's going to be as bad a product as you've ever seen in an
man.
LSU-Alabama game.
I mean, I just don't think Alabama has the quarterback. I mean, and I don't think they're not exactly what they. I mean, the defense is really good. I watched most of that A&M game, and they were killing each other defensively in that game. Nobody could run the football, but I still don't think that it's one of their flagship defenses like they've had. What's interesting to me about Alabama is like all these teams that we've seen over the year. Like you look at, and they were all 5 stars, but you look at all those defensive guys they put in the NFL. not a lot of them have panned out, like to the all-pro level. It's really strange.
There are a lot of really solid guys. There's not a lot of like the premier NFL superstars. Like Derrick Henry's kind of a rare one, that really has.
He's
gone
off.
stardom.
I meant like defensively. A lot of those defensive guys.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. I mean, and there's a lot of good ones, but honestly, some of the ex-Clemson guys, Dexter Lawrence is having a huge year. Like you look at some of those guys.
They hit really on pretty much every one of those defensive linemen in that national championship era.
Yeah. Now, I will say they're all good players to come out. Like, you don't see the Alabama busts. Like, they're good players. But there's not a lot of this guy's transcendent. I mean, I guess Minka would be one of the exceptions. Minka Fitzpatrick's obviously been very, very good.
And Quinnen Williams.
But, yeah, really I mean, by and large, you're right.
I think we've had that discussion before. But, no, I think for Oklahoma, they need Texas to keep winning. They need Kansas to keep winning. I mean, they're at 21.
They either need Texas to keep winning or K-State to go in and beat Texas. I mean, I still think there's a way if Oklahoma – obviously Oklahoma needs to keep winning, but if OU gets the Big 12 championship and let's say K-State wins out, K-State's going to be one of the best.
They'll be in top 12 probably.
Yeah, and if you win that game, then you need some help. I don't think it's this because Texas will stay ranked, and then you all of a sudden your only loss is to a ranked Kansas team, and you beat a ranked Oklahoma State team.
Right.
Like I think that either Texas or Kansas State is who you want to play,
and that's all contingent upon them getting what they've gotten in the past. Is that a lot of help?
Yeah,
a lot of help.
It's a lot of help, but I also think that the teams in front of them are. I mean, one Michigan and Ohio State. One of those two is going to lose.
Right.
I don't think Florida State's going to lose. I think they're going to win the ACC pretty handily. I think Georgia's going to win the SEC pretty handily, so that'll knock out an Alabama and whoever else is up there from the SEC. And then you look at, I think you need the Pac-12 to implode a little bit. And the way Washington's playing right now, I think that's very possible.
Gettable. Hey, Lincoln. Hey, buddy. Need help this week.
No, but I think the only problem I really had with the rankings release yesterday, George, you asked the question. By the way, it's really funny how you addressed him as Boo. Like,
hey, Boo.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about this morning. Yeah,
I knew I was going to do that going into it. So
it was planned. That's good on you. But no, I mean, and so I was back here at the office monitoring it and getting stuff up, on the site and Twitter and stuff like that. And I caught Boo Kerrigan, he's the chairman this year. NC State,
yep.
Athletic director. And he said the same. He said something on the ESPN broadcast, which was immediately after they released the rankings, which he mentioned OU had a great last-minute drive to beat Texas.
It was almost the way he phrased it was almost as if he was saying OU was fortunate that they were able to come up with the last minute.
Yeah.
Like they were fortunate to win that game. It wasn't, singing their praises. It was more so, they had
who's on that committee, feeding that into everybody's brain?
Well, and I thought it was also weird that he mentioned, he goes, they lost to Kansas, and then he hypes up Kansas Kansas is playing great, but they also had that close game against UCF, and I'm like, so the reasoning is that they lost to Kansas, to be clear, I would probably also rank Texas over Oklahoma right now, just because of the way OU's playing, but the reasoning was very, very odd. But
just the whole thing about the last minute win against Texas, they hadn't been leading for most of that game.
Yeah, well, and they had chances to really open it up.
14,
yeah.
21.
So I don't know. I mean, it's whatever. It'll all take care of itself. So it's kind of stupid, and I get it. People were like, "Well, why are you even asking that?" And I'm like, "Well, because I'm interested."
Does Missouri have any chance? I know Georgia's playing really, really well.
Oh, you mean
they go to Athens this week, right? Missouri
does?
I think so.
Okay.
Is that wrong?
That's a big game.
No, you're right. You're right. That's
a
game.
Big football game that I haven't heard anybody talking about. Now, I don't even know what the line is. I would imagine Georgia ends up winning by a couple scores.
Where's game day?
I know nothing about Missouri, though, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And all of a sudden you look up, they're number 12 in the country.
Where's game day?
That's a great question.
And Louisville's another team that's overlooked.
Now, are they on the opposite side as Florida State? Louisville? Have to be, right? Or do they play each other this year?
Who's that?
Louisville and Florida State. I don't think Florida State plays Louisville.
So they would meet in the ACC championship.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That'd be an interesting game.
I think you can count on this. You can count on the ACC is going to get a team in, the Big Ten's going to get a team in, and the SEC is going to get a team in. I think where it could get interesting is a one-loss Oklahoma or a one-loss Texas versus a one-loss Washington, one-loss Oregon, something like that is where it gets a little bit tricky.
Well, I also felt like they're kind of like if Washington had lost to someone, they would have definitely ranked Oregon over them too, because it seemed like they were really in love with Oregon.
Yeah,
on that show last night.
And I do think Oregon's really good.
I think if Oregon and Washington played again, Oregon would win that game. Oregon just totally screwed around. Remember how
Dan Lanning screwed.
Talk about being aggressive. That's too aggressive.
A little over the top. Yeah.
The crazy thing too is I think that they put a lot of stock in what they did to Utah over the weekend. I mean, they beat the shit out of them. That game wasn't even close.
I think Oregon's pretty damn
in
good.
Rice-Eccles, man. You don't go to Utah and win like that. I mean, I think Oregon's the third best team in the country. I think they're outstanding.
Dan Lanning just screwed it up for him.
I completely forgot the ACC doesn't do division. So it's Florida State and Louisville. And all of a sudden, Virginia Tech's revived the program a little bit. They're 3-1.
They made a quarterback change, man, and it's actually a kid from Houston. Guy I saw play years ago playing against Jalen Robinson, old OU wide receiver. So, but Brent Pry, about a month ago, they were like, oh, he's kind of on the hot seat. And then ESPN ran a story or something, basically like you could tell it was straight from the desk of Brent Pry. Like, this is how shitty it was when I took over from Justin Fuente. This is what we were left with. And then since then, like I said, they've made a quarterback change. It seems like they've kind of found their feet. Georgia Tech's not playing terribly either. There's some interesting ACC stories.
All right. I want to remind you guys, Dead Soxy, great sponsor of the podcast, DEADSOXY.com. Go check them out. Use that promo code SCOOP. You get 25% off your entire order. And that includes sale items, but go check out the new Crimson colorways. Make sure you at least go check it out. They're really great socks. We're even collaborating on a scoop launch here with Dead Soxy that we'll have available for you soon, or at least more details available soon. But deadsoxy.com. I'm wearing the no shows right now, even though it's cold outside. But they also have the great boardroom socks. They have the silicone beads that keep them up. Keep them on your ankle if you're wearing the no-shows, or keep them up on your legs if you're wearing the boardroom. So great friends of the show, deadsoxy.com. Use that promo code SCOOP for 25% off. And as always, stay soxy. Well, we're ruining Josh's day because we're bringing in Bob Przybylo on the podcast. Ouch. Well, it's not a you personally. It's just the information that you're bringing. Oh, Josh is just disconnected.
Love it.
So anyway, no, but we're pretty close to basketball season here. We've got a scrimmage coming up. I know the women had a game the other night, or last night, I think.
Yep.
But a special field house edition of what is that? Is that a scrimmage that they're doing?
No, that will be November 30th, and Porter Moser announced Monday it's just going to be students only. I'm very curious at how that's going to look and work out.
I bet it'd be pretty good.
Yeah, it's sold out.
Nobody knows who the damn team is. They want to see who they are.
That's why I'm glad there is a scrimmage tonight. Now, I was surprised at how late it took to schedule it, but we have not seen these guys yet. We haven't seen a practice. We don't know how John Hughley looked. We don't know. We're not going to know half the numbers of any of these people. So I'm glad to get out there this evening. It's a free scrimmage. Let's see what this team's about.
So of all the new names, who's the headliner?
I think it's JVN McCollum because I think he's going to run the team with Los, and that will be a telltale sign of whether or not they've done well in the portal. But that's why Hughley is so important, because they needed a big guy, and they keep stressing he's a back to the basket. He's Elton Brand in 2023, and they keep saying how they're going to use that to their advantage. But what if he's slow? What if he can't guard anyone because he's too slow to keep up with anybody? And the whole point that they've talked this off offseason about being faster, being up tempo. Well, if you have a center that can't run, then that's not really going to correlate. So I'm very intrigued at how all these pieces will come together. It feels good, but it felt good last year too before it went off the rails.
These guys are much better basketball players.
They should
than
be.
what they were
They
last
should.
year. I would say too that I think the big thing with John Hughley.
You got it.
Oh, it's a whole new set of names.
Fuck,
Freddie.
I got that one though. I'll get that one. With him is just probably maybe not so more like just being fast and being able to move is just conditioning. Can he get up and down the floor?
Yeah, and that's something that every time Porter's mentioned him at Media Day in Kansas City and local Media Day last week, he was like, we're trying to get him in the best condition of his life. You can see photos of him at Pittsburgh, and you're like, there's no way this guy could survive what Moser wants to do. He's slowly been shedding the pounds. He looks like he's in great shape, but we need to see it.
What kind of jump can Los Uzon and Ortega make here going into their sophomore year with all the experience that they bring back from their freshman year?
Yeah, I mean, Los is going to be expected to be the leader of the team. He is one of the team captains, and I asked him flat out, like, what is about your personality that makes you okay with this? And he's like, I'm ready for this. I get it. I'm just a sophomore, just second year in the program, but I am more than capable of being this guy. I had the talks with the coaching staff. This is what they asked me to do, and I was ready to do it right from the jump. Never thought of jumping into the portal. Never thought of testing the waters. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to start building something special.
I'm excited to see Luke Northweather too. He's become a legend.
He's a legend
without ever doing anything. But 6'11" that can shoot. Sign me up. I'm interested.
Yeah, and hopefully if everything goes well this evening, we'll get to
he might
talk
be better
to
than
him
Pokey right now. Yeah.
I would love to get to talk to Luke this evening following the scrimmage because we didn't get a chance to talk to him last week at local media day. But yeah, Porter's been very high and consistently high on him, saying he's been the most consistent performer throughout the fall. So does that mean that he's finally starting to get good or that he's starting 5 level good? That's what I don't know yet.
I don't want to ask if this is a make or break season for Porter with the people in the administration backing him. I do want to know if this is a make or break season for his own mental health. Porter himself.
Team Norman will be that will be the deciding factor to me. He's still mentioning how they need that new arena. So when that comes up, which should maybe hit the city council in the spring, I think that's going to be a huge determining factor as to whether Porter wants to stick around. There's going to be some fans that say it doesn't matter. I don't care if he sticks around. But if that new arena doesn't pass, I think that's going to be a major blow, and I'd be very curious to see how he can respond to it.
I mean, look, I don't want him to come off as the bad guy in that situation either because, he's trying to do the most obvious thing. He's a basketball coach. He wants to bring people and players to Oklahoma, and he realizes how difficult it is with that arena. The fact that we've all allowed Lloyd Noble to be pushed so far on the back burner. And, I'm not even sure if someone went to Joe Castiglione right now and said, here's $500 million. Let's build a new arena. He would probably use it for something else.
They were 8-7 at home last year. That's not a home court advantage. This is something that opposing teams kind of will joke about. That's not a hostile environment. Going in there, there's sometimes you feel like you're the home team. So they've got to get that advantage going. I know Porter reaches out to the students like crazy, and he's doing it again, obviously, with the student-only game. And we'll see. It's going to be up to them, clearly, beginning Monday, because you can't have a Sam Houston State situation. You can't lose the first game and expect people to buy in and want to show up November and December. They play Monday night against Central Michigan. Get a nice start going there. Start building the goodwill and see what happens during the first 2 months.
Think about how many of those games last year that they lost coming out of the 4-minute timeout that had an opportunity. You would think that with a good home crowd, maybe you pull some of those out, even half of them.
And then they could still have nights where they
it helps having better players.
Run Alabama off the court, run Kansas State off the court. It's just a bizarre season.
Are we back to be okay for Arkansas again this year?
Yes, we are.
That's awesome. I love the way
great
that thing's
atmosphere.
developing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great atmosphere. It's usually 70-30 Arkansas fans, but
80-20,
it's fun.
Yeah.
Now, Porter's had a lot of upheaval and change on his staff. Like, how has that changed going into this year?
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely, when Dildy left to Duke so late into the process, they're sort of worried, but they brought Clayton Custer back, who had actually left from a support role at OU to go to the Ramblers. Now he's back in Norman. And now this year, they've allowed the basketball coaches to add 2 more assistants. And so got Paul Jesperson, who OU fans might remember is the guy that hit the buzzer beater against Texas in the NCAA tournament, and Brock Morris, someone who has SEC experience from Ole Miss. Got Ryan Humphrey again, try to work with big guys, brought Armand Gates in, Oregon. A lot of experience, and it's just, I think Porter's realizing it. I just have to get my guys. I have to get guys who know my type of system. I can't just base it on hope or faith that this guy's going to fit. And I think, because that, we almost forget about that. Matt Brady was supposed to be an assistant coach until a week before the season opener last year, and that was kind of a precursor of what that year was all about. So he got his guys in, and we'll just see how quickly it can all come together.
I know we've hogged all the questions, Josh. We wanted to give you a chance to get in here with some basketball talk before we move on to recruiting.
Yeah, Carey saw me looking at the back of my microphone. I was very engaged in what was happening there with the basketball conversation.
It was a great A.J. Hawk impersonation you were doing there.
I will say the biggest story, and we didn't get to really ask about it after Porter gave us a glimpse about it. The block charge rule has changed. Whatever was a charge, most likely.
Because you can't slide as the guy's going up.
Correct.
So the NBA's doing that too this year. I guess they're both doing that.
He said like 90% or 96%.
96 of 100 that they looked at would now be called a block instead of a charge.
Wow.
John Higgins got out of the biz at the wrong time. Or maybe this is why he got out of the biz. He can't call any late game charges anymore.
I'm a little worried about how. Now is that reviewable?
I don't think so. I don't think they have review in college, do they?
Until
Unless
the final
they added it.
They have like
Final
under
2
minutes,
but not
like who knocks the ball out of bounds. And
Yeah,
stuff,
but not actual like charges like the NBA where you can just review anything.
And that's where Ortega will be interesting because he goes in a full head of steam. He's gonna have to learn to pace himself. And now he draws charges too, but he goes in with reckless abandon. I want to see how he's able to adjust going into the year.
All right, and once again, on the schedule moving forward for OU basketball?
They got the free scrimmage tonight, and then the season
For
opener.
students only?
No.
The game is the students only.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
Oh, the game is. That's right.
Tonight
Okay.
is for
November
for-
30th.
So
for
the scrimmage
anyone.
tonight is everybody can
Yep.
go.
It's
Yeah,
free.
anybody can go.
And then they have a 2-game week next week, Monday and Friday, both at home at 7.
Very nice. All right, thank you so much, Bob Przybylo, for the basketball knowledge. For those out there that enjoy that, hopefully we'll have Bob, basketball starting. So Bob will be a part of the pod talking hoops each and every week now. Josh, we had the recruiting report on Monday, and has there been any more turns in the Grant Brix situation?
I had a chance to talk with some people last night, and I get the impression, and I won't say confidence. I'm leery of saying OU is confident about the situation. I think they still believe they can land him. I don't think they think this is a done deal and he's going to Nebraska, because I know a lot of predictions rolled in from multiple Nebraska insiders on multiple networks. And just talking to some people, I think there's an expectation he'll be on campus next weekend for the West Virginia game. And if that's the case, I think that's pretty telling. I mean, for him to go over to the Nebraska game, that's nothing. That's like, driving from Norman to Oklahoma City. It's just not a big deal. It's very close to his home. To make the trip down from Iowa to Norman, that's a commitment. That says something about Oklahoma still being in the race. And I think it's an indicator of, maybe getting near a decision, like maybe finally being ready to do this, because we've talked about this. This was something that was kind of rumored early on that that Grant Brix was going to make a couple more trips before he finally made his decision. That didn't happen. I don't know if that's because he's had a really good season there with Magnolia. They're actually 9-1. Got a big game against the one team that beat them this Friday night in the playoffs. So, now if they go on around, who knows? Like maybe that trip can happen for the West Virginia weekend. We'll have to play that by ear, but the expectation is that he'll be in Norman. So we'll see. And, with Grant Brix, you don't count on anything. I'm absolutely going to have Eddie parsing through recruits and looking at the crowd, although we can't take pictures or shoot video of any of those gentlemen. But yeah, so I think, like I said, I think the waters are calming a little bit would be the way I would say it on the I know so many were alerted about Grant Brix for a while.
It always kind of goes back to that thing that I think we talk about when kids come to Norman. It's like that first 48 hours, let everything wear off. If he doesn't commit after that, it kind of feels like you've navigated those waters.
Absolutely. And, Eddie, we talked about this, I think, last week on the report is because there was a point in time early in the season when a lot of people thought he was about to pull the trigger for Nebraska. And then Oklahoma kind of fought that back. And then he kind of stepped back from it all, went through his season. And there really hasn't been that many hot rumors until about 2 weeks ago when it sounded like Oklahoma was about to get a commitment. I think Nebraska kind of fought that back a little bit.
As far as Thursday goes, I guess just in the immediate answers, it sounds like Oklahoma's still in pretty good shape with the 2025 linebacker Marcus James. That's expected to make his announcement on Thursday.
Yeah, Oklahoma looking for their third commitment on that Carl Albert roster that we've talked so much about, joining Kevin Sperry and Xavier Robinson, or I guess would be joining if he makes that decision. You look at his list. I mean, TCU, Arkansas, Texas A&M, and Utah was kind of the kind of one out of left field. But he's been to Norman a lot. He's camped there. I got the impression when he went to A&M, I want to say that was early October, so about a month ago, that the feeling that I got from that was very much a needed to see A&M, was interested in A&M, and then kind of see where it played from there. Almost immediately afterward, he puts out his top 5, and then I want to say like 2 or 3 days later, he releases, hey, I'm going to make my commitment on November 2nd. So I know some could read that as a positive for A&M. My general impression is Oklahoma is going to be tough to beat, largely because, again, we've talked about the connections between Carl Albert and Oklahoma, but also I think Brent Venables has had a big role in Marcus James's recruitment. And talking to some people, I think there's been some, because Marcus is about 6'3", 205, big, long, rangy guy. Kind of been some, hey, look what OU's doing with Deshaun McCullough. Like, I think that's been a comp that he's been shown of, hey, have a look at this and kind of see how you feel about that. And I even was told that they actually had a little time, Marcus and Deshaun, to talk recently and kind of, get a feel for, just each other and what that position is like and those kind of things. So I think this is definitely trending in Oklahoma's direction.
Anything else out there that we need to hit on recruiting wise, new developments or anything?
It depends on how, like you said, for those that haven't looked, go watch the recruiting report that we're starting to do every Monday, Eddie, George, and I on the YouTube channel, just Sooner Scoop. But, Reggie Powers obviously making his decision last Friday. I know we just listened to the pod. That's a big win for Oklahoma. Back-to-back weeks to reel in him and Boganowski really kind of continues to secure not just the talent in that secondary, but the physicality. I mean, those are two big hitters, very violent guys.
Was that weird that it happened late in the fourth quarter of OU Kansas?
God, I felt so bad for Reggie because that delay, he thought like, 3 o'clock, well, it'll be right after the end of the game. And, another OU win. And then not only does it get delayed, so he has to, the time he had set aside was in the middle of the fourth quarter and the game is falling apart. I think George said he thought it happened right after Farouk's fumble.
Yeah, it did.
So, yeah. Talk about brutal timing. But yeah, it's still a big win for Oklahoma. I really like Reggie Powers a lot. Very much in the The Billy Bowman, the Peyton Bowen, that kind of, he's not a one-way player. He's not great against the run and kind of weak against the pass. He's very multifunctional, and you can see him, being a multi-year starter for Oklahoma. I think he's a very good get.
Local offer yesterday, a guy that we saw camp over the summer, Mason James from Norman North High School, and I know that we were both really impressed with him when we saw him this past, what would that have been, July at Brent Venables football camp? June?
Yeah.
June.
He's your favorite kind of camper, Eddie. Like, he's the guy, we don't have to guess who Mason is. Mason has very distinct hair. He's a very, he's got the big, really big hair, and you're just like, that's him. That's who we're looking for. But even if he didn't, like, you notice him. Like, he's a guy that's constantly making plays. I think I get so lost on what days the guy's camped, but I think a few days before he was there was the day I had gone over to Westmore to watch a team camp that Westmore was doing, and he was over there at that time, and along with Josh Iasosa, both guys that were very fringy as OU targets, but I knew I wanted to see them, and Mason was really good that day. We've actually got him listed as a cornerback on 3. We're probably going to have to at least move him to athlete, because I know in talking to him, and we've got some about it in Woke this morning, there is it's pretty clear that Emmett Jones has kind of targeted him at receiver. And Emmett Jones, I don't know what star he feels like he fell under, but the wide receiver class in Oklahoma the last couple of years, with already having Jayton Nickens in the boat, Elijah Thomas, who I think is truly special, and then Mason James in 2026. I mean, he's cleaning up and not really having to leave the 405.
Jinx Bixby pick?
I got to go with Bixby. It's so crazy to say that, because guys, it's not that long ago. I remember doing the Future Sooners that I do every week, and I would write these, blurbs like, and I can't remember what player it was. It might have been Stephen Parker. It's probably before that, but it was like, oh yeah, Jinx pounds Bixby yet again for another year, and it was like 70-7. And Bixby went on to go 10-1, but Jinx just beat the crap out of him because Bixby was a little lowly 5A school, and they had no prayer of holding up with big bad Jinx. And now Bixby's the Jones that everybody's trying to keep up with. They're just unbelievable, and the way they're organized. And Lauren Montgomery is going to go down as one of the great coaches in state history.
I don't know. They struggled with Westmore a couple weeks ago, 78-28.
Can we talk about how there were some Westmore folks like trying to make that out like, oh, well, it's just because of their
things just went poorly in the third quarter?
How would
I think it was like somewhat close. I think it was a 14-point game at halftime, and then they put up 78.
How would Guthrie's defense do against Bixby?
Not well. I think Bixby's just that good. I think that they do so much stuff, kind of like a Kansas, that they confuse you before the ball's even snapped, and then they're off to the races.
Well, Josh, talking about Bixby, is there any elite recruits, or is this just a well-oiled machine?
It's your typical Bixby team. Like last year, obviously they had Luke Haas, that was the Under Armour All-American, and sad deal, was off to such a good start for Arkansas this year. But in general, they've got a bunch of Tulsa, North Texas, Arkansas State kind of guys, but they've got like 8 of them. And that's kind of where Bixby is again this year. Got a couple of really good offensive linemen. They've got some good skill guys. I like a couple of their edge players, and I like all the guys, but there's nobody that is going to be on, like, I'm going to be writing stories about on Sooner Scoop amongst their, junior, senior classes. That's just not the way it is. Now, I go by every year, and I was up to see them this year. Actually ran into Danny Okoye while I was up there. And it was crazy because they're scrimmaging like, Edmond Memorial, who's got a Power 5 prospect, and David McComb at quarterback, and Midwest City's got a guy they kind of like. And I mean, there were 4 or 5 other teams that can't hold Bixby's, lunch for them, but they have a better, singular premier prospect, and the best prospect in the whole stadium was standing on the sidelines borrowing my camera to shoot pictures. So it's just one of those things where it's Bixby. That's one of the things that's amazing about them, and it's kind of like Jinx was for a big portion of the 2000s, where they were so great, and Bixby is now, but there's not like a bunch of NFL future starters on that roster.
By the way, the recruiting roundup that we're doing on Mondays, if you haven't been to the YouTube page, you have to go just to watch Ty Haywood's flop.
It's so unbelievable.
It is one of
Cracked me up.
It reminds me, and I know I'm a nerd here. The more I've seen it 100 times now, but it literally looks like, like in the Transformers movie when Optimus Prime died, and they helied him to the airport and just dropped him on the tarmac. That's because he's such a massive human being.
He is a large kid, and I know a lot of people they're just used to listening to us in podcast form, or they're on the site. All you've got to do is go youtube.com. I think it's just /Sooner Scoop. I think it's that simple.
Yep.
And go subscribe, and you can set it up to it will alert you anytime we have new content. So you'll never have to venture back. Yeah, absolutely.
And so pretty much every day of the week, I'm up here uploading the video that we did. I think Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday sometimes. Yeah, I mean, we're doing videos just about every day. So, and it'll let you know when you got it. So if you got, most of it's all in 4K too. So if you got that fancy 4K TV, it'll give you some nice 4K content. And we got lots of highlights on there, lots of interviews. Like Josh will go on his recruiting trips, and we'll do the Monday thing. And I know we got Brig going to Jinx Bixby this week, so we'll be able to look at some of that stuff on Monday too and break it down.
Yeah, I'm going to go see Jaden Jackson and David Stone and Jordan Seaton in IMG this weekend.
Very nice.
So we'll have a good one there. Thursday, going to go see Andrew Marsh, one of the top junior wide receivers in the country. Going to get my first chance to see him as a junior. So should be a good Monday content item. We should have a lot of good stuff to talk about.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast. We'll be back with the game day preview on YouTube for Thursday. Special guest Eddie.
Marshall Scott from Pistols Firing. Does a really good job with that website.
Look forward to that, but always great insight into the opponent.
And Robert Allen. Robert Allen's the surprise guest.
I'll believe that when I see it. So, yeah, go check that out on Thursday. It'll be up Thursday evening, and Eddie and George doing a great job with most of our YouTube content. So, and Josh is doing a fine job as well. And someday I'll be on there one day. But anyway, that's going to do it for this edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast. We'll be back again next week right here on Soonerscoop.com.